Before I start, I just want to apologize if I do something wrong. I'm a bit old, and I can't keep up with all of this new technology. But I heard this was a place to share scary stories. And the story I have to tell is definitely scary. I've had hundreds of students in my 30 years as a high school art teacher. Most of them were unremarkable, ordinary teens, whose names I can't even remember. I can't say the same about Mary though. Mary was short and kind of pudgy. She wore thick glasses and always had acne on her face. She always had this deer in the headlights look on her face and was always looking down at the ground. It was like there was a kick me sign super glued on her back. As you might have guessed, she was a target of her classmates' bullying. Before you say anything, I did try to do something about it, but I was ignored by both my coworkers and by Mary's classmates. Mary had a real passion for art, especially painting. I can still remember the way her face lit up whenever she moved the brush across the canvas. She was very good at it too, though she didn't know it. It broke my heart to hear people insult her work, but it was even more heartbreaking when she was one of those people. But that's not why I remember her so vividly. You see, Mary had a talent I hope to God no one else has. I remember the day I found out about it. The way she came to see me at lunch, with that sparkle in her eyes. I think this was the first time I ever saw her looking genuinely happy. "I have something to show you," she whispered. She led me to a storage closet and pulled out a piece of paper, which she had drawn a stick man on. She sat down, putting the paper in front of her. She started to move her hands over the paper, whispering something, looking like she was in a trance nobody could break. "Look at the paper," she whispered. I could make out the faintest movement from the stick man. It moved slowly but steadily, crawling its way out of the paper. Mary moved her hand to the right. The stick man followed. She kept moving her hand around, and the stick man followed her every move, letting her guide it. There was no way this could be real. I stood there staring at her, unable to move or say anything. I'm ashamed to admit this, but I couldn't help but feel a pang of fear. I knew she was a nice girl, and that she'd never hurt anyone, but she was bullied a lot, and even the nicest people could snap. I think she must have sensed my fear, because she looked hurt, even after I told her that this ability was amazing, and how impressed I was. I couldn't get it out of my head for the whole day. The way she made that thing move, it was incredible. Like magic. No, it was magic. And she trusted me enough to show me. God, I remember feeling so loved at that moment. Looking back, I was lucky to be on her good side. The next day, as soon as I entered, I heard an ear-splitting, high-pitched scream echo through the corridors. It was coming from the second floor, Mary's classroom to be precise. I dashed in panicked, trying to see what was going on. I stifled a scream when I saw it. In the center of the classroom was a giant black mass. It looked like it was made out of angry, wild scribbles. All the students were huddled into one corner of the room. Some were clinging to one another. Others were screaming, and others were just quietly sobbing. Others ran out. Those were the ones that survived. Everyone looked terrified, except Mary. Mary was standing at the front of the classroom with a smug grin on her face. The air of powerlessness she usually had about her was gone. I never noticed how odd she looked without it. She outstretched her arm. The black mass lunged at the students. It sucked them in. They all became one with it, losing their shape until they were merged with the darkness. She stood there, taking deep breaths, that unhinged grin still on her face. She started laughing. It started out as slight giggles, then gradually turned into maniacal, grand laughter. I remember being surprised at just how happy she sounded. Then she noticed me. We made eye contact for a few seconds. I took a step back, my breaths short and shallow. Then she said, in a much too gleeful voice, "I guess they won't be bothering me anymore."